Welcome aboard Rocket Ship, the platform with the most relevant content for competitive examinations. This is Rocket Ship IAS Lab and continuing with our series on answer writing for general studies papers of civil service main examination. We take up a question that you might come across in GS paper 1. Here goes the question. Technological developments during Harappan period, that is between 3000 to 1500 BCE, continue to influence India till this day. Illustrate. So here you have to talk about the technological developments that the Harappans had managed to bring about and how they continue to influence India till this time, till today. You have to illustrate your answer with giving examples, as the meaning of the operative verb illustrate actually means. What we are doing here, how we are introducing our answer, is we are going into the, you could say, the technological developments that had at first paved the way of evolution of human civilization from copper age to bronze age. What were the major technological developments that made that man could actually leap to bronze age from the copper age. So the point is, transition from copper age to bronze age was made possible by major technological inventions, chiefly the discovery of principles of alloying metals and benefits of plowing. Actually, most scholars say that these were two major technological breakthroughs which made that humanity could evolve from the copper age to bronze age. These major technological inventions were the discovery of principles of alloying, that is principles of actually mixing two metals. You could understand it very well, because bronze itself is an alloy of copper and tin. Bronze means bronze it's bronze, it means Cu plus tin actually. It is copper plus tin. That means indeed it was possible only because humanity had discovered the principles of alloying, that is mixing metals. Moreover, another technological breakthrough that made possible the bronze age was the benefits of plowing, discovery of the benefits of plowing. What plowing does? Plowing actually loosens the soil so that the roots can penetrate deeper, so that these saplings roots can penetrate deeper and they can derive more, you could say, nutrients from the deeper layers of the soil. Moreover, they would have greater access to moisture from the deeper layers, which rarely dry out. So these two things, that is discovery of the principle of alloying metals and the you could say benefits of plowing, these two discoveries actually led to the humanity taking a leap from the copper age to bronze age. Bronze Age civilizations, including Harappa, China, Mesopotamia, and Egypt, covered much distance and technological developments. This is a general point. Harappan civilizations made path-breaking inventions and technological developments, some of which have continued to influence technological developments later, continuing to modern era. That is, there have been some, you could say, technological practices that can be traced back to Harappan period. So what are some of the technological developments which can be credited to Harappans? First is their hydrological engineering. An example can be given of the, you could say, they built step wells, their building of step wells, which you can understand very well that step wells can be considered, you could say, a particular specimen of Indian style of architecture. That is, the step wells are a prominent features of Indian architecture. Metallurgy, obviously, because it is called the bronze age civilization itself, so they would have discovered the principles, or like method of bronze casting, one of which the practices, one of the techniques they were using was the Sair Pardu or the lost wax method to cast bronze items or like build bronze items. Moreover, they are well known for their town planning and sanitation, which were in many senses much more advanced than the town planning and sanitation system in present day India as well. They are well known for uniform or standardized weights and measures. That is, the weights and measures that they were using were uniform across their, you could say, vast expanse. If we were to talk about architecture of Harappa, what is their, you could say, most remarkable feature is the profusion of ceramic or burnt bricks. That is the fired bricks buildings, which were actually the most important, you could say, part of the Harappan architecture. One of the earliest evidences of cotton fabrics is found from Harappa, and moreover they developed the, you could say, methods of dyeing. One of the you could say techniques that they developed is called modern dyeing. What modern dyeing is essentially all about, we would like to explain it here. Modern dyeing actually uses some metals and metal compounds to you could say as binder. Actually modern dyeing uses metals and metals compounds as binders, so that the fabric can retain the color, fabric can retain the dye for longer. Anyway, taking up these points in detail, Harappan sites like Kalibangan and Dholavira show intricate arrangements for water storage. A step well has been discovered in Dholavira. Later, step wells became a centerpiece, that is a prominent part of Indian architecture, with examples like Rani Ki Vav, which you probably know that it's situated in Patan in Gujarat, and Ugrasen or Agrasen Ki Bauli, Delhi, and Bansi Lal Pet, which is in Telangana, etc. So you can understand very well that something that was built during the Harappan period, going back to Harappan period, and it was found at Dholavira, a step well has been found in Dholavira. It became so important in Indian architecture that it is considered one of the particular features, one of the peculiar features of Indian architecture. The evolution of Bronze Age civilizations was made possible by developing the knowledge of alloying, that is, mixing metals. Different grades of bronze required understanding of metallurgical principles. Harappan artifacts were cast through lost wax process, that is Sair Pardu. If you have no idea about Sair Pardu method, please look it up, which is practiced even today as Dokda tribal art of East India shows. Dokda is a tribal art which is practiced in East Indian states like Chhattisgarh, Odisha, Jharkhand, West Bengal, and parts of Bihar as well. And it uses the same Sair Pardu or lost wax method as was being used during the Harappan period. Harappans perfected the grid layout of town planning. They laid their towns in, you could say, along blocks, and these blocks were actually the roads that divided these blocks intersected at mostly right angles. This principle keeps informing modern town plans like Chandigarh. Actually, some scholars have pointed to this beautiful analogy that the place called Chandigarh, that is Chandigarh, is situated on the same, you could say, region. It is situated on the same place where Harappan civilization was situated once. You are probably aware that one of the Harappan sites is quite near Chandigarh. It's called Ropad or Rupapur. Harappans gave great attention to sanitation. They developed the modern flush toilets. Something we have to keep in mind when we are talking of ODF, that our ancestors had taken, you could say, first steps to even you could say develop modern you could say ideas of sanitation. The vast area under Harappan civilization, 1500 km to 1000 km, uses remarkably uniform weights. So you can understand very well how difficult it would have been for them to ensure that the uniform weights were used across this vast expanse, and they still managed to get it through. And measures. Harappan binary system. Harappan binary system where weights and measures were calibrated into multiples of 16 and sometimes 8, 4 and 2 as well, but mostly in the multiples of 16, continued to be used till modern times. For an instance, traditionally the rupee was divided into 16 annas. Actually, before the rupee was transitioned to decimal system and it was divided into 100 paisa around 1950s and 60s, Indians were actually dividing the rupees into 16 annas. Decimal system where it is divided into 100 paise. The rupee, before it was divided into 16 annas, which is almost the same principle that were being used during the Harappan period. More than any other contemporary civilization, the Harappans used burnt bricks in their buildings on a greater scale. This must have required the knowledge of ceramics. Terracotta bricks are mainstay of Indian architecture even now. This point does not need much explanation that Indian buildings are still mostly built of bricks. The oldest specimen of woven cotton fabric is from Mehergarh and Harappa. Mehergarh is actually pre-Harappan period. It is in Baluchistan, which is under Pakistan's occupation. Mehergarh is from the pre-Harappan period. Harappans discovered mordants for use in dyeing. We have already talked about what mordants are, but mordants we would like to elaborate it once again, that mordants is using metal, you could say metal or metal compounds as binders, so that the fabric can retain the dye for a longer period. Mordants is essentially using metals or metal you could say compounds as binders, so that the fabric could retain the dye for longer. This is used in fabrics like kalamkari, chintz fabrics and Indian block printing. For an example, Bagh prints from Madhya Pradesh and Dabu from Rajasthan, etc. So this was all on the technological developments during the Harappan period and their influence on contemporary India. But before we call it a day, we have to remind you that this this question was essentially quite heavy in examples. But we suggest you that you note down these examples and these illustrations separately as part of your running notes. That would be helpful for you. In fact, when the question is framed in some other way, or even through your entire UPSC journey. That is one suggestion that we would make to you, that you make running notes of almost every lecture that you attend here, but specifically of this lecture, because we have used a large number of examples here, and you would lose actually track of all these examples if you were not, you could say, if you did not have your running notes handy at, you could say, quite near to you. Anyway, this is all for today. We would reassemble for the next lecture in a few days. As usual, we wish you all the best. Thank you.